But should we talk about? I guess we have to talk about volcanoes and global warming.
Yeah, I guess. I was just going to say I can see a volcano out my window.
Is that?
I mean, it's actually the Jemez mountain range. Is all volcanic, and it's considered dormant. But sometimes you look out there and you see some smoke, and usually turns out to be a controlled forest service burn, to clear out vegetation or something like that. But anyway, yeah, I guess there's some scientists under the what is the rubric of geoengineering.
Yeah.
Saying that we should put is it sulfur dioxide, some kind of sulfur compounds, and shoot it into the atmosphere to deflect some of the sunlight and cool off global warming. But if we could have lots of volcanoes erupting constantly all over the planet, that might do it too. Well,
and I think this would be a good way to utilize all of our surplus nuclear weapons. We can just start dropping some of these in dormant volcanoes and blow up.
To ignite them, but that sounds like it's going to spread some radioactive materials.
Well, George, if you're talking about geoengineering, I mean, you're gonna have to break a few eggs to make the omelet. So, what's a little bit of nuclear fallout?
Yeah, that sounds a little like a proposal to global warming that Lyndon LaRouche might come up with.
Right. Let's take everything bad and combine it.
Yeah.
I've just been Googling volcanoes and climate change this morning, and what makes them so interesting, I guess, is that volcanoes release a fairly significant amount of carbon dioxide, which of course can contribute to global warming. And I guess I've seen different figures, but on average, I guess you get about 100 million tons of carbon dioxide released by volcanoes or just sort of vented from the earth.
Yeah.
Every year, which is less than 1% of what humans are contributing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, like coal plants are.
Yeah.
It's
tiny. But that global warming effect is vastly outweighed by the cooling effect of the ash, the particulates, and especially the sulfur compounds, which, as you just mentioned, create these particles that reflect sunlight back away from the Earth's atmosphere. And I found this interesting piece in Scientific American that said that Benjamin Franklin was the first person to point out the possible link between between climate cooling and volcanoes. So he was in Europe.
Oh, I saw that too. Yeah, it was an earlier eruption of the same Icelandic volcano, right? And it was affecting the weather in England, and Franklin was there doing diplomatic stuff. And
this is
that's interesting.
This is in I guess 1783. That summer in Europe was really, really cold, and Franklin seems to have attributed. Actually, in this story, it's not clear that he knew about the volcano, but he
just the fact that there was all this stuff in the air, and
yes, and that it was really cold. But the story says that the impact on Iceland that summer was horrible, or from the volcano. 70% of the livestock, 25% of the population died either from famine or the direct toxic impact of the clouds from the volcano. According to the records, I don't know how good records could be back then, the global temperature decreased by about 1 degree Celsius, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'm sure you remember, when Pinatubo, the big Philippine volcano, erupted in 1991. We had a dip in global temperatures that lasted, I think, for 2 or 3 years. And there's, again, this is from the same Scientific American story, there is not necessarily a direct correlation between the size of the ash cloud, just the sheer debris that's spewed into the atmosphere, and the cooling effect. So there was a fairly small Mexican eruption in 1982, El Chichon, I think, that just happened to be particularly high in sulfur content.
Oh, okay.
And so it was much smaller than Mount St. Helens, but it had a much bigger cooling effect because it contained so much more sulfur.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, well, maybe, yeah. I don't know. It's a trade-off. Do you want to have volcanoes erupting all over the place to bring down the global temperature?
Yeah. Well, another positive side effect of the volcanoes is the wonderful sunsets.
Yes, right.
So,
yeah, Simon Winchester, the guy that he wrote that book about Krakatoa eruption, and you sent me the link. I guess he did an op-ed piece on the Icelandic volcano, and it was just kind of this historical reminiscence of the Krakatoa volcano and all the great artwork it led to.
Yeah.
And some people thought that Edvard Munch's painting The Scream, I guess there's at least a story that was painted during a reaction to the sky darkening from the Krakatoa volcano in Scandinavia. The after effects reaching that far.
Right. Climatology and art history. I think there's a new discipline.
Yeah.
So cool. It was really like going to another planet. It's so foreign down there. And we got to go through the dry valleys, and we went out onto ice floes, and the helicopter would hover above the ice, and
I'd love to do that.
And penguins would hop up on the ice floes and come waddling over and look at us, and we went to the South Pole itself. But the big science story that broke when I was down there was the discovery of volcanoes under the ice sheet that were creating this layer of lubrication. They were melting the bottom of these big glaciers.
Oh.
And there were some scientists who thought that it might, completely apart from global warming, that this effect might accelerate the flow of some of these big glaciers and the ice sheet in general into the ocean and cause a catastrophic rise in sea level.
Wow.
Earth and visit our nearest neighbor in space, the Moon, it revealed that even the most prestigious scientists often underestimate the ability of human ingenuity to accomplish what is considered
impossible. Take a note of this jump coming up, folks.
In 1957, Lee DeForest, the inventor of the vacuum tube,
he's not running and jumping. This is a standstill jump with a backpack that weighs
no matter what
40 to 80 pounds probably.
Man would never land on the moon and bring back
challenge anybody to do this.
Just 12 years after that, millions of people on the Earth were able to watch the first moon landing on television as it happened.
Watch this. Stand still. He stops.
When trying to understand UFOs, it is important to be careful about using the word impossible, because the history of our
more than a foot off the ground, folks.
Get
a backpack on and let's see you do it.